stay humble. I had a conversation yesterday with a guy who is pretty successful. He has a high volume Liberty Tax office. He has a retail store. He also has some rentals that he's very successful with. And he was asking how to do. I can't remember what we were talking about, but my answer was, let me introduce you to this guy that does business coaching. And he said, should I do it? I said, only if you're going to listen. I said, you need to stay humble. And that's not just directed at him, even though he is, very talented and he knows what he's doing. But as business owners, once we achieve some level of success, that humility isn't there as much.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the KB Article. Excited to be here today. Excited to have our guest on today. We're going to be speaking with JR Cecil. JR, I've known him for 13, 14 years, part of the same franchise organization. And as always, got Kyle Kinsler, co-host and business partner here with me. But, JR is going to bring a wealth of knowledge to our audience. And our goal is to enhance the financial well-being and growth of our listeners, our clients, and those that we work with. Mostly small businesses, but we do work with a lot of individuals as well. So the goal is the same. And JR brings with him, at least from the entrepreneurial side and building a business, a real close tie to community and his ability to network, which is something that I think all of us can strive to be a little bit better at, especially coming out of COVID, getting back to talking to people and looking at eyeballs instead of computer screens. So it seems kind of ironic we're on here recording this on a computer screen. However, I think we need to emphasize the importance of connection. And I don't think there's anybody better in the business that I've seen than our guest. So with that, JR, appreciate you being on, brother.
Hey, thanks guys for the invite today.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate it, JR. So, you've been with our system. We've known you, like I said, like 13, 14 years in the system here.
Yep.
JR, you do a fantastic job getting, internally. I know you're on a number of boards. You do some nonprofits. You network like crazy in your community. But on top of that, you network. We've got a franchise network that we do. And JR took it upon himself that JR basically created a mastermind group for our accounting services that we have, and we meet every Tuesday on that. That's been going very well, and I appreciate you doing that. In fact, I was thinking you do it. You're like you need a co-host sometime. Like you don't have to always be there. Somebody that's good.
I'll tell you where to send your resume after. I'll give you my email.
Well, there you go.
You're better looking than me to be your coach. When you're not there, somebody that's going to want to tune in with it, they're not going to want to look at me. But I did. But I'm just like, what? You're there every Tuesday night, and it's like it never takes a break or whatever it is. I just kind of putting that out there for you. So,
No, if you wanted me to give, or JR is a giver, man. But tell us a little bit about. How you got in business, what type, business you're in, we know, but share with the audience what type of business you're in. And,
Sure.
Kind of when you started, was community your thing, or is it just something you learned that, hey, man, I love community and now I can pour into it and benefit the people and my business. Tell us a little bit about your upcome.
Well, I think so. Upbringing, grew up small town, North Carolina, had like one stoplight in my town, and that's so that the school buses could pull out of the school, safely onto the highway. So it was, I grew up small town, and I'm still in a small town, not where I grew up, but closer to where my granddad grew up. And as far as the giving back, that's probably where a lot of that comes from, is my granddad. I model after him a whole lot. I was actually named after my granddad. His name was John as well. So,
okay.
Take a lot after him. Grew up traditional high school student, graduated exactly middle of my class. Took a couple years. You did too?
I was number 19 in a class of 37. So there's exactly 18
Are you
people that were smarter than me and 18 that weren't so smart.
you're
So I was,
you're trying
I
you're
was.
trying to out brag me on the small town there. I think I was number 60 out of 120 or
Yeah,
something
no
like that.
Oh
stoplights.
wow, I even got you beat on that. I don't know what number I ranked in the class, but there was 42 of us. I can't tell you that.
Oh yeah.
We're all small town.
That's usually something unique about me. I come from small town. Y'all outshining me there, but
Yeah, there you
so
go.
we can all relate. Small town, it's we enjoy the atmosphere. So yeah, I'm in tax preparation business. When I grew up, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
Took a couple years off from school after high school. So I graduated high school, and then 3 years later, I started community college. As I was going through community college, I took a class in economics and really enjoyed it. And I
Hmm.
thought I wanted to be a banker. So I went and was a banker for about 2 or 3 years. And then the mortgage meltdown of '08, found myself looking for work, ended up finding a job with who is now my mentor, David Shook. Took a season, 2 seasons, worked with him as a tax preparer. And then my third year with Liberty, I became a franchisee. And that
Hmm.
was, you're right, 13, 14 seasons ago. So, yeah.
It's amazing how fast time goes.
Oh, my
Crazy.
I've
goodness.
known everybody, and it seems like yesterday. And it was like I've been doing this for 20 years now, and it doesn't seem that long. And
But, but you look back 13 years ago, would you picture yourself in the seat that you're in now? Like, I think we would all kind of be proud of ourselves looking back, say, oh, if you'll be here on a podcast with these successful guys 13 years from now, do you believe that? It's like, well, I hope so. Like, a lot of us underestimate what we can do over a 10-year period, but overestimate what we can do in a year.
Yeah,
well,
no, that's very well said, man. That's great. So, you became a Liberty franchisee. I presume you had one office first year.
Yep.
Going into that year, marketing, you're learning everything about business, right? You were a banker, so you knew how to count money, put, that sort of thing. But what was your experience like? You're kind of exposed to it, and then like, oh, there's all these things I got to do. I got to be IT. I got to be whatever. But then you got to be marketing, and then you
Mm-hmm.
found yourself you're out in the community. I think you were president of the chamber, right, the local chamber in your community,
I
and
was
a whole
chairman.
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So just tell us
mhm.
about how you navigated those first few years and how you dove into all this community work that you do.
Well, I think they're directly related. You talk about, how much I love giving back and being part of a community, but that's what I attribute my success to. I had a good network of franchisees close by. I had David Shook, who I worked for, who is now, very successful by anybody's definition. Got Ryan and Tiffany Dodson, were my area developers or master franchisees. They are still a resource of mine, still very much part of my network, and we speak regularly. So me looking back and recognizing that my network was directly attributable to the quick success that I had, and the uh, just the path that was laid out, I was able to navigate it so much better by having mentors and a network. And so now that I'm in a place that I can give advice, I know that there's value there. There's not that you're shortcutting, but you're helping people learn from what you have experienced in your wisdom. So I have that knowledge now. I try to build a network, and I'm still selfish to this day with my network. I get as much value and accountability as I create, I feel, but I still try to give 51% for every 49% I take out.
Right. Now you established this network within our Liberty tax system. In the day when we were very young, we had those things called their chat rooms, right? And they had different topics or whatever it was. I lived in marketing. I mean, I was there. I mean, and every time a good idea came up, you know, within there, you could adopt it or not adopt it, or you might say, "Hey, I tried this," and then I could put that in there. But then that kind of came by the wayside, and then you stepped in and you created this mastermind group. That's the new chat room that we have. So it's as a resource. It's funny, 20 years later, I'm still on the calls. Well, I try to be on them more. I was one on the other night, and then we had to go to a game and stuff like that. And I guess it's always been like every year I always suspect that, well, especially like the first 5 years in the tax business, I just wanted 1 year to where it'd be like the last year and the year or whatever it was. And
I'm
it took
still waiting on that
years
normal tax season.
Right. Then nothing is normal and everything is changing. So I thank you for doing that, because there's always something to learn, because we're always evolving. And if you hadn't have done that, we'd be just getting information from the top down and just trying to do whatever it is that we have there. So, and we probably got 40 to 60 people within that particular group there.
Yep.
And different faces show up. And I think for me as a franchisee within the system, what I find in the network and one of the most rewarding times is it's not so much the business anymore. And I don't want to go to where I love the network of people that I have, the social network that I have, knowing you, knowing Chad, knowing Tiffany and Ryan. I mean, I met Ryan, gosh, probably 19 years ago. He's one of the first people I met at in Las Vegas there that 1 year. And, no, thank you for doing that, and we appreciate that. But that's one particular group there that really have to identify with. But without you having done that, I mean, we would still be maybe we'd be flailing, and maybe as an organization we wouldn't be going in the direction that we would either. So,
well, I can give some credit to somebody in my network with that. The first community that I built was co-founded with David Shook. We talked about how important networking was. We fostered the idea when we were traveling to one of our annual conventions, and we were talking about where we get value, and the value was in the conversations in the hallway just as much as the speakers on the panel. And so we wanted to continue that networking year round, and so we developed that first community, the Better Tax Prep community, and now we've got the subset of Mastermind. Stacy Barnes was a big part of encouraging me to do that, to change the conversation, make it a more intimate group. And, franchisees only, where the other community had all levels of staff and team members. This one is just franchisees. So the conversation is better, and the communication is quicker. Like you said, instead of waiting on an email, especially since tax season is so compressed, one day for us is like 4 days in the corporate world. We have to be able to react quickly, and you can only react if you have information. So that community is very important on getting that information quickly to each other.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, man. You said earlier the power of your network, right? You show me your network, I'll show you your net worth, right? And net worth in monetary means, personal, mental, physical, whatever, every facet has a net worth. So it doesn't mean you're going to be super loaded or whatever, but if you hang around 5 millionaires, you're probably going to be the sixth.
Yeah. And
type deal. So, I mean, was that something that you knew, or you were fortunate to have the right people in place when you came in?
I was fortunate to have the right people in place. So, like I said, I got to hang with David Shook when I worked with him. Got to regularly visit with the Dodsons. They ended up employing me to do some contract work with their areas, their DMAs that they were ADs over. So, I mean, I learned a lot from them, and so I was just lucky. Our logistically, the franchisees close by were amazing for me to feed off of. And so now, technology is important, but it's also important to get out in your local communities. That's where I do a lot of my marketing, is through my local network. But to answer your question, yes, I happened upon some very talented people and benefited from it. So trying to repay the universe for that now.
No, and I think that's awesome. You do a great job. And I ask that because there's, just for all the business owners just getting in, you're in 1 year, 2 year. I mean, I don't know if we all did it. JR was fortunate. I got in, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, honestly, in business. And I was still hanging around guys I went to high school and college with. We were drinking and watching football and doing, stuff that was not advancing any area of my life.
Yeah.
I was around folks at Liberty and everything, but until Kyle and I really partnered and started working closely together, I didn't even go to convention. And
Oh,
I kind of got away from networking events. But so I was surrounding myself with people that they were great people,
yeah.
but
You weren't hanging with criminals, right? It was just
they were just people, but they had different goals. But I'm wondering and stressed out and thinking I can't get there. Well, because the bar was set too low, right? I needed to hang out with people that were better than me, striving to be, already had what I wanted, or were striving to get it, and I could follow them along. And like you said, it's like now that you've kind of done it, you try to bring the others back like that so they can avoid some things that maybe you went to. But all the small business owners out there or entrepreneurs are looking to get into business, side hustle, surround yourself with the right people. Don't hang around. Don't go to the bar on Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights and think on Monday morning we're just going to spend 3-4 days pouring into our business and it's going to work. You got to sacrifice and get around people that uh, are working on their business, working on themselves personally, trying to get better, being the most, advanced version of themselves. And so
yep.
many business owners, man, just like me, weren't fortunate to start on the right track, and it almost caused failure. There were some failures, but we overcame a lot of stuff. But,
Mhm.
when Kyle and I started working together, he kind of pulled me along and said, you got to start getting out there and talking to associating with more people. I got more involved in the chamber, and I've since done that. So I don't know if he knows that, but yeah, I wasn't doing any of that stuff before.
I
And and
100%. I agree with you. So, we're all three Liberty franchisees, but it doesn't have to be in your same
right,
franchise, or it doesn't have to be in the same industry, because before we started the recording today, we were talking about how you want to become a business owner, but you don't realize that you're also going to become the bookkeeper, the marketer, the HR department, the CEO. Like, you have all these other things and skill sets that you have to come across. And so if you started a business in your community as a plumber, you're going to become more than just a plumber, and the guy that sells insurance can help you with your business and talk to you about things in marketing or operations or hiring.
yeah,
Just like the lady that owns the boutique can help you with site selection or whatever. So it's not, you don't have to find somebody doing the exact same thing as you to benefit or to build that network. It can be locally, and you can find movers and shakers within the chamber, within your local Rotary Club or networking groups, and benefit from that network very much locally.
Oh, and I think it's very rewarding too, because I mean, if you can go to a networking group and I mean, I can look back 20 years and I can tell you 100 ways of not how to do things. And like you said, like, site selection or whatever it may be. And it's so imperative and important to the business. And they're coming up to, that's what they're doing. Well, may I offer some advice? Would you be open to, and seeing what we have to say? And, so it works that way, and you can kind of, pour into people. And then once you get to know people, and then they trust you, then they, introduce you to their friends, and, so on and so forth on down the line.
yeah.
So where are you at now, as far as, do you do chamber events? Do you have any networking groups that you work in right now? Or what does that look like for you now? And I know you work in some nonprofits and that type of
Yeah.
thing as well. So, and that in itself is a network.
Well,
Um,
the first place that I stopped when I was even before I bought the franchise, I stopped by the local chamber of commerce and introduced myself, and I've been a member ever since. Right when I bought that territory, that franchise, I joined the chamber. Been a member ever since. I'm now
yep.
one of their community sponsors, so a higher level of financial giving. I'm also on the board. They just asked me to be treasurer at that not at that chamber next year, as opposed, so on the executive board, not just regular board member. I've
There you go.
I've been chamber or treasurer and chairman of the board at the other Chamber of Commerce, my other territory. Uh, I'm treasurer at the United Way for my county. That's where I just got back from. I had a board meeting right before this. So we
Well,
were,
you're really plugged in. It just
yeah,
reminds me, you talk about the chamber, and I love the small town. I mean, now I'm in Omaha, and Chad, he's in Council Bluffs, which is, we're a larger metro area, but I still live in a suburban Papillion here. But the town that I started with the Liberty tax was up in Williston, North Dakota, and I got involved in the chamber there. And I remember I'd go to the chamber and they'd have this stack of papers that they'd have on the front counter announcing these events that were coming up in a couple of weeks. And I was like, well, what are you going to do with these? I'd ask them. And as well, we just, people come in, we can give them a flyer or whatever. It's got the chamber thing on there. And I says, I'm new in town. I'm a new business owner. I'd be happy to go out and talk to all the businesses in town on behalf of the chamber. So it kind of allowed me to get indoors that I otherwise would not been able to. So I'd just go in and I'd introduce myself. Hi, I'm Kyle Kinsler. I'm with the Williston Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm just new with I just newly been with them, and then also I got the tax service. So I go in and I introduce myself as a chamber member first, and then it would lead to those other things.
So
so then by the time tax season rolled
self-appointed.
around, I already had a talking relationship with all those people in the or a speaking relationship with all those people in the community. So it's just by doing a little bit of legwork.
You appointed yourself as an ambassador, and then went out
Basically,
and
yeah,
it's on
basically,
behalf.
yeah. So I mean, if there's stuff to be distributed, I was that guy, So
I started doing taxes for a couple employees of the Chamber of Commerce, and heck, they're some of my biggest cheerleaders. And so I'm top of mind when people are asking for either business startup advice or tax advice. They refer to me quite regularly without me asking or without any expectations in return. I just hired a girl that used to work at the chamber, so the relationships you can make at the chamber are some of the best, especially small town. I know you can get lost in the weeds if you're in a chamber of commerce that has 2,000 members. But if you're at a chamber like mine that has 300 members, you can get to know all of them and you can make a meaningful impact very quickly. And
yeah, I like your size of town that you're in. I mean, that was kind of to me that was like it's such a nice sweet spot to where you can kind of get to know everybody that's in your community.
Yeah.
One thing you said earlier is, get to know the plumber. They can be more than just, you're not just the plumber anymore. You're not just, but so many times in business, I know we're in a franchise, but we're also in other things. We do bookkeeping, accounting, whatever, tax credits. Even those that, it's good to network with those that are doing the same thing as you or in the same industry, and you may compete, right? Because why? You can work together.
Yep.
I mean, we get referrals from CPAs that, okay, maybe that's not quite the fit for them anymore, right? So they refer them to us. Also, with networking, at this point in the stage, we actually pay to be in groups, to be around people because we know the power of it. And just an example, yesterday, Kyle and I had some potential partners in town from New York City and Florida on some deal the last couple of days, masterminding. And I met them and did some business with them in my tax credit business in a paid mastermind. That's how we met. So we've done great business together, but now there's just a tremendous opportunity in front of us because of that. I mean, it's so important but with that said, with the last couple minutes we have left, JR, we're going to challenge you. What are 2 to 3 things that you would tell individual small business owners, mostly entrepreneurs, because those are the folks that are listening for the most part? What are 3 key things that they need to focus on for their success? We know networking is probably one of them. What are a couple other things you'd like to instill with them before we get off?
Stay humble. I had a conversation yesterday with a guy who is pretty successful. He has a high volume Liberty tax office. He has a retail store. He also has some rentals that he's very successful with. And he was asking how to do. can't remember what we were talking about, but my answer was, let me introduce you to this guy that does business coaching. And he said, should I do it? I said, only if you're going to listen. I said, you need to stay humble. And that's not just directed at him, even though he is, very talented and he knows what he's doing. But as business owners, once we achieve some level of success, that humility isn't there as much. We start touting our own successes, patting ourselves on the back, and realizing we have something going. And we forget to be humble and that we can still learn things from others. And so, if you're going to have a coach, or, I mean, being in that network is nothing unless you're willing to listen and receive the information. What else are you in that network for? Client referrals? I don't
Get
want
rid
to
of
refer.
that ego, right?
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
like,
Yeah. When people come in the very first day and they're pitching you how to, send me your
yeah,
leads or give me your business or that type of thing, just kind of, let it come. It'll be all
yep.
right. Get to be relational, right?
Check your ego, stay humble, be willing to offer help. Oftentimes, when we go into a network, we need to view those relationships like a bank account. You should not ask for a withdrawal until you've made a deposit of value. And so
Yeah.
you need to bring something to the table. You need to add to that conversation. You need to offer help and value before you ask for a favor, before you say, hey, can I get an hour of your
Right.
time?
Spot on.
Do
Spot on.
something first. Give into that relationship before you ask. Be humble enough to ask and to receive that value, and then find a coach, find a mentor as you're humble and opening to receive that advice. Stay humble. Ask a coach, ask a mentor. Pay if you have to. Sometimes there's a
Yeah.
price of admission to be in the right group and in the right circle.
Well,
No, man,
JR, you are the right person. I'm sorry about that, but I see you as humble, because when you're at a convention 5, 6 years ago and you're giving away these wristbands or whatever it was for you're paying it forward already. You're trying to create that community to get people to come together. You're definitely, so when I think of that humble or paying it forward, I think there's a lot of people that are hear this call, and especially Liberty Tax franchisees that are out there that. JR has already made it a deposit into our
Yeah.
account, and I continue to uh, just praise what it is that you're doing. I hope you keep doing it, but I wish you'd take a day off once in a while, that you're not having to be there every Tuesday night.
Yeah. Hey, man,
We took
JR.
we took Halloween off. We didn't have a
Well, I
meeting
guess we
on
do
Halloween,
from time to
and
time.
then I won't have one on my birthday. My birthday's in a couple weeks on a
You
Tuesday, and we're
deserve
not
it.
going to have one then either.
All right. Well, good stuff, man. JR, we appreciate your time. We really do. I tell you, you hit on some key things. One thing that was just paramount to me, and Kyle just kind of hit on it. You mentioned you give 51, maybe 49. I know that's a lie. You give a lot more than the 51% for what you get. But Zig Ziglar, said if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get more than you need, or something to that effect.
There's
So,
Zig Ziglar. Yep.
with
Love
that
it.
said, take that to heart, everybody. That's one thing. If you do learn anything from this episode, is the more you give, the more you receive, in all facets of life. So again, JR, thank you for being on, and thank you all for listening.
All right.
Y'all
We'll
the
see
best.
you, everybody. We'll
Thanks,
see you
team.
later.